Hi, my name's Rae-ann Wood-Schatz, and I'm the president and owner of Integrity Seminars, Coaching, and Hypnotherapy. I want to share with you today 4 simple ideas that when you apply them in your life could transform your life. I also want to share with you some of the ways in which you may find it difficult or challenging to apply those concepts. If you've ever heard of the definition of insanity, which most of us have or have certainly experienced, is that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, hoping for a different result. So if you have ever felt a tiny bit insane, then perhaps you know that you have some patterned ways of being, some behavior, some ideas, some thoughts that have gotten in your way over and over and over again. So these 4 simple ideas will support you into making better, perhaps, or different choices, and also the opportunity to be able to take a look at what it will take in your life to get off that hamster wheel of insanity. Don Miguel Ruiz wrote a book called The 4 Agreements. They are 4 simple ideas, and you have probably in your life practiced these ideas on some level or applied these ideas in your life and then found yourself in moments of stress, in moments of struggle, forgetting what you know works and going back to your old patterned ways of being. Concept number 1 is be impeccable in your word. So words matter. So words can hurt, words can heal, words can draw people towards you, words can push people away from you. So being impeccable in your words means that you are mindful and careful about what it is that you say. And so words matter. But it's also not just about the words that you choose to use. What's also important is that you recognize that keeping your word is part of being impeccable in your word. We make agreements every day. We make agreements with ourselves. We make agreements with other people. You may be that person that is practiced and polished and careful about how it is that you keep your promises with other people. So if your agreement is to show up on time, you're that person that always shows up on time. Or maybe you're the opposite. You're the person that never shows up on time. And I want you just to pause for a moment, and I want you to think about the impact in your life and in your relationships, more importantly, when you give your word and you don't follow through. Perhaps the consequences are everything from people have just given up. They tell you that dinner's at 6, but really it's at 7. Perhaps you have had the consequence of people being angry at you, people wanting to stop spending time with you because they've finally had enough and are completely frustrated. Or nobody even notices anymore. Those are consequences. I want to talk about the price that you pay in your life when you don't keep your promises with other people. The price, no matter what, and no matter how hard you try to avoid it, is that when you don't keep your word with people in your life, you lose their trust. And if you were to look at what makes for good relationships and healthy, sustainable, long-term, lasting relationships, trust is one of the pillars and the foundations. Consequence varies depending on who and what the situation is. Price, no matter what, you will always pay. Think about yourself as well. So we make agreements with ourselves all the time. So for example, perhaps you make the agreement with yourself, you're going to get up at 7 o'clock. And when you make that promise to yourself, you also are promising you're going to have a healthy breakfast, you're going to walk the dog, you're going to make sure that you have your lunch packed so that you'll be able to have a healthy lunch and not have to go to the drive-thru, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then the alarm goes off and you wake up and you think, I'm tired. I could use 9 more minutes of sleep. And so you hit the snooze button and you go back to sleep. And then 9 minutes goes by and you wake up and you think maybe just 9 more. And now before you've even gotten out of bed, you have 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 broken promises to yourself. Again, consequences might be dog doesn't get walked. Consequences might be that healthy breakfast has now just become a drive-through McDonald's. Those would be consequences. There is a price that you pay when you don't keep your word with yourself. And the price that you pay is that not only do you lose trust with yourself, you lose self-confidence, self-esteem, and self-respect. Think about the successful people in your life or those times in your life where you have felt successful. And what you may discover is that the foundation of that is your self-confidence, your self-esteem, and your self-respect. If you want to be a person that is successful, if you want to be a person that other people want to be around, think about how important it is to be in integrity and to keep your word. That's concept number 1. Be impeccable in your word. Number 2 is don't take things personally. So one of the biggest challenges we have in life is that we came into this life with this thing we'll call your ego. And our ego is sometimes our greatest gift because it reminds us that we're capable. It encourages us to keep moving forward. And it can also be your greatest challenge. So somebody told me once that our weaknesses are our strengths turned up too loud. Think about that for a moment. So if you're a kind person and you turn that up too loud, you could become a pushover. What is it that makes a person kind? What is it that makes a person capable? So part of what that is our mind and what we believe about ourselves and what we believe about the world around us. Ego can be your greatest strength, remember, and it can also be your greatest challenge. So don't take things personally means that sometimes we need to check our ego. People don't have the power to hurt you, even though you might believe that's true, or you felt hurt by something somebody said or something that someone did to you. And the reality is that they don't have the power to hurt you unless you give it to them. And the only reason why you would ever give it to them is because they have struck a chord or they have said something in you that you feel like you are pressured by, challenged by, perhaps you've heard before, and you felt the pain of that before. Walking your life as a victim means giving other people your power, allowing other people to hurt you. So when we take things personally, it affects how we feel about ourselves and it affects how we feel about others. Our last concept was be impeccable in your word, keep your agreements. If you feel bad about you and other people, think about the effect and the alchemy of those two things together. Concept number 2, don't take things personally. Concept number 3, don't make assumptions. Perhaps you've heard the acronym of what happens when we assume. We make an A out of you and me. So why would we ever make assumptions? Why would we not have the courage, the capacity, the willingness to just ask people sometimes? Once again, we have this underlying idea or belief that we know what other people think, that we know what other people are going to say. So for example, you may be sitting home alone on a Friday night and you think to yourself, I'd love to go out. Maybe I'll phone my friend Mary. Oh, Mary's got kids. She's probably going to be busy. She's probably exhausted from her week. So probably I won't call Mary. Well, maybe I'll phone my friend Sally. Well, Sally's worked really hard. She works 12 hours a day. She's probably already in bed, and you don't call Sally. And then you find yourself sitting on your couch. You've got a bucket of ice cream, a bag of chips, and Netflix is on, and you're feeling bad. You're feeling sad. You're feeling bad about yourself and decided that nobody likes me. And then you're doing sabotage in the form of how you take care of yourself. Instead of, what would happen if I just called Mary? And what if I had plan B, which is if Mary doesn't come through, maybe I'll call Sally. We assume all of the time, and what that creates in our life is that we have relationships with other people in our heads. Sometimes you may be accurate in terms of your assumption, and sometimes you might not. And again, I want you to think about the impact in your life when you assume. It has impact both how you see yourself and how you feel about yourself, and more importantly, the quality of your relationships with other people. So unless you are a mind reader, and you are a skilled, trained, practiced mind reader, my suggestion to you would be to consider the impact in your life when you make assumptions. Concept number 4 is do your best. So we are human. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And one of the things that I know is true is that you didn't wake up this morning and say to yourself, you know what? Today is the perfect day for me to go out and make a stupid choice. You know, the first stupid choice that comes along, I'm going to make it. We wake up every day with the anticipation that we're going to do our best no matter what. And the reality is that I have met many people in my life, hundreds, maybe even thousands, and I've yet to meet the perfect person. So if you are a recovering perfectionist or you're an active perfectionist, what I want you to understand is that you have ultimately set yourself up. You've set yourself up for disappointment. You've set yourself up for self-deprecation. There's not one perfect person on the planet. And in fact, every time if you were to reflect, you have made a mistake. If you stopped to take a moment and reflect and look at it, this isn't a mistake. This is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for me to grow. This is an opportunity for me to learn. There's a lesson. There's a gift in this for me. If you look at what those experiences have been and what the lessons were, and then you make the clear and conscious choice that you're going to apply those lessons in the future, you have the potential and the capacity to transform your life. If you feel you have the capacity to, then take a moment and do your reflection. Go back, look for the gift, look for the lesson, and then make a commitment and a decision about how you are going to apply that lesson in your future. So I want to just summarize those 4 concepts. So starting with number 1, be impeccable in your word. Remember, words matter. They heal or they hurt. Make clear and conscious choices. Also remember that being impeccable in your word means keeping your word, making promises to yourself and other people, and only those promises that you know you are going to follow through on. You know that consequences are what they are, and the price you will always pay is a loss of trust, self-esteem, self-respect, and self-confidence. Don't take things personally. When we take things personally, it affects how we see ourselves. It affects how we see other people. It affects how we move through the world. Concept number 3 is remember that when we assume, so never assume, when we assume, we want to be a mind reader. We want others to be able to read our minds, and it keeps us distanced and separated from each other and from what it is that we say we want. Concept number 4, do your best. And the easiest and most powerful way for you to do your best is to remember that that's what it is to be human, is to get up every day making the decision that you are going to do whatever it is that you can do, and know that some days it's going to look different than other days. So on days when you're feeling sick or ill or have the flu, it's going to look different than on the days when you're well rested, when you're feeling in the flow. And you don't wake up any day, ever, with the intent to make stupid choices or not do your best. We're all doing the best with what we have. And when we learn and when we understand and when we take the lessons and the gifts from our experiences, then we can always do better. And better is then, therefore, the next level of what it is that we can manifest and create in our life. So conceptually, simple, yes? Something that we all would say, I understand that, it makes sense to me. And why do we sabotage? Why do we find ourselves in that spin of insanity that we talked about in the beginning? I want you to consider for a moment that when we say we want something different and better in our lives, the first thing we do is we focus on changing our behavior. It's a powerful way to transform. And the reality is it's not enough. So you may have decided that you're going to do something different, and then you start doing it different, and pretty soon you're back to old ways of being. So second thing to be mindful to is it's your point of view and your perspective and your attitude that matters. So positive, negative, neutral are the 3 types of attitudes that exist in the world. I think we have a planet full of people that are walking in the middle, managing and struggling with the reality of what is, and so being as neutral as possible is the most powerful way. Positivity, however, is the pathway to having a better, more successful life and to transform your results. Behavior matters, attitude matters, and there's a third piece that most of us never think about or even understand or recognize or know about. And that third piece is your belief system. So your belief system is any thought or idea that you have about you or the world around you that you have decided is the truth. Now, it may or may not be the truth. And if you have made it your truth, then everything else that you feel, your attitude will be affected by that. And more importantly, how you choose to behave. Here's the most significant part of that recognition, is most of what you believe was created between the ages of 6 and 12. So what that means is that you're out there in your life, no matter how old you are today, and you're making decisions in your life based on the point of view and the perspective of a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old. So if you've ever had that experience of having a temper tantrum and then looking back and going, who was that? That was your 9-year-old. And it's because that 9-year-old is still there and that belief system is still within you. The other thing to recognize is that that belief system, for the most part, sits at the less than conscious level. So it's old and it's buried. So if you are ready to dive into the deep end, to go down that rabbit hole and discover what some of those beliefs are that have you in that spin of insanity and in that spin of sabotage, sign up for an open house. Call us, come in and sit with us, and together we can explore how our programs can support you in changing those behaviors, changing those attitudes, and more importantly, discovering those beliefs so you can get off that hamster wheel, get off the spin of insanity. Thank you.